Discover the incredible truth about medieval life, 7 amazing jobs that changed everything forever. Jake had seen darkness. It hovered like a heavy fog over his heart since the day he lost his father, a hero in a world that often forgot to honor him. At 32, Jake lived a quiet life in a small Midwest town, where every morning he donned a smile as a high school history teacher, pouring his soul into lessons while clocking in hours for his single mother and younger sister. But behind that brave facade lay a gnawing worry: what if he couldn't provide for them? What if the weight of the world crumbled beneath them, one day, while absently wandering through the aisles of the town's old library, the very place where he built his dreams? Jake's fingers brushed against something extraordinary. An ancient, leather-bound journal tucked away among the dust-laden tomes ignited his curiosity. As he opened it, the pages whispered tales of long-forgotten medieval jobs. He could almost smell the warm bread baked by timeless bakers and hear the clinking of hammers from skilled blacksmiths, artists who shaped their communities. The stories wrapped around Jake like a comforting hug, stirring a yearning in him to instill that pride in his own students, who faced economic hardships. Overwhelmed with inspiration, Jake envisioned an initiative that would bring these enchanting trades to life in the classroom and community. However, his ideas were met with skepticism. "What are you thinking, Jake?" the school board mocked. "This isn't the Middle Ages. We aren't living in a fairy tale." And in those moments, doubt crept in like a thief, snatching away his hope. The rumors spread through town, parents raised eyebrows and whispered worries. What if Jake couldn't hold them up? Life grew heavier. The burdens piled high around him, pressing against his chest. He could feel the weight of uncertainty gnawing at his very soul. But as darkness loomed, paradise came crashing down when disaster struck. A prolonged drought parched his town's beloved local farm, a once thriving symbol of the community's resilience. Families he'd known all his life now hovered in shadows of despair, and then, something clicked. This was at the moment for action. Rallying his remaining strength, Jake sprang into motion, organizing a community festival to celebrate those medieval professions he adored, a chance to reconnect with their roots and find hope in unity. Banners unfurled, laughter echoed, and children's voices bounced against the rugged walls. He saw it coming together, the rhythm of joy against despair, but even as excitement built, anxiety lingered. Would this extraordinary festival truly bridge their hearts together? And then came the blow that twisted his gut, the call from the school board, threatening his job over this unconventional initiative. His heart raced, palms sweaty, standing at a crossroads laden with the weight of his family's future. What would he choose? Mission or comfort? Hope or safety? As the festival drew near, his dreams rested on a fragile thread. Could he summon the courage to transform this town's darkness into a canvas of light? He could hear the distant laughter, feel the pulse of unity, and a question lingered like a teasing breeze: would they embrace the healing that awaited, or would doubts shackle them, leaving him alone in his dreams? The night before the festival loomed heavy with anticipation. Jake stood in his small kitchen, barely illuminated by the flickering light of an overhead bulb. He stared at the parchment spread across the table, each line a call to action, a step toward rekindling hope. Handwritten notes adorned the edges, ideas for activities, a list of vendors he'd convinced to showcase their medieval trades. A labor of love, crafted under pressure, excitement wrestling with uncertainty. The clock ticked on, and the quiet of the house felt deafening. His mother was in the next room, and his younger sister, Mia, had already turned in for the night. He could hear her soft breathing, and for a moment, it suffocated him. The thought of what might happen if the festival flopped gnawed at Jake's insides. What would they think of him? Was he setting them up for failure instead of providing them security? Jake took a deep breath, determined to drown out the looming shadows of doubt. Tomorrow, he reminded himself, they would celebrate resilience. It was more than the medieval professions. It was about uplifting a community that had weathered storms together. The next morning broke bright and clear. The sun spilled golden light over the town, bathing it in warmth. Jake swore he could feel the town's heartbeat beneath his feet as he stepped out to start the day. With each step toward the festival grounds, he felt that flicker of hope turn into a steady flame. Families began gathering. Children scampered with excitement, their laughter blending into the breeze, spreading joy like confetti. Setting up the stalls was chaotic but invigorating. Local artisans arranged their wares, a blacksmith hammering iron into shape, bakers kneading dough, and potters molding clay. Jake darted from one booth to another, feeling pride swell in his chest. He engaged with vendors, cheering them on, watching as they transformed the seemingly impossible into tangible joy. Just as Jake began to believe in this collective dream, he spotted a familiar face, the school board chair, Mrs. Thompson. Her expression was a storm cloud on this sunny day, and he felt his heart leap into his throat. Would she unleash her doubts now, in front of the growing crowd? "Jake," she approached, arms crossed, "you know I disapprove of this festival. You should have thought twice before putting yourself out there." He swallowed his response, grappling with the frustration bubbling within him. But before he could retaliate, her gaze softened as she scanned the busy festival. A boy was gleefully pulling a cart of fresh bread, while the aroma wafted through the air, promising warmth and community. Perhaps she hesitated, her voice quieter. "Maybe there's something here." Jake felt the ground shift beneath him. Could she really see it? Was the festival starting to turn the tide in a heart he feared was closed off? As the day unfolded, the festival transformed. The sun painted laughter across faces, and the hum of engagement echoed through the crowd. Jake watched as everyone came together. Moments of connection danced in the air, a child learning to spin clay, a father teaching his daughter to bake bread, a family discovering their history through ancient trades, but beneath this joyous facade, a raw pulse of tension remained. Uncertainty lingered like shadows at dusk. Jake's hope flickered precariously as he realized that while today was bright, tomorrow loomed ahead, an unknown path filled with possibilities still hidden. Just as the sun dipped low, casting long shadow over the festival, a commotion erupted near the main stage. Jake rushed over, heart racing. What if it was something that could crush everything he'd worked for? The crowd murmured, and he caught snippets of conversation that made his stomach twist. "They're canceling the program. Have you heard the rumors?" Jake's heart raced. Could this dream survive yet another blow? Would this day truly become a turning point, or would it fade into a memory of despair? He took a steadying breath, bracing himself for what lay ahead. In the cacophony of voices, he realized it was high time to face the truth, whatever that truth might be. Jake pushed through the crowd, the whispers swirling around him like dark storm clouds. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach, the joyful heartbeat of the festival now drowned out by uncertainty. What could possibly be happening that threatened everything he had worked for? As he reached the main stage, he spotted a group of people huddled together, their faces carved with concern. At the center stood Mrs. Thompson, her face pale but determined. She glanced up, catching Jake's eye, and he felt an unspoken urgency pass between them. "Everyone," she called out, her voice cutting through the air. "I understand there are rumors of canceling the evening's performances. These concerns are due to safety regulations we were unaware of when planning this event." A chorus of gasps rippled through the crowd. Jake's heart sank further. All their efforts, all the laughter and joy could come to a screeching halt. It felt like the world was collapsing around him, memories of laughter turning into echoes of panic. However, Mrs. Thompson continued, gaining strength, "I have spent the last hour reviewing the guidelines, and I believe we can still proceed. If everyone works together to make adjustments, we can move forward." A flicker of hope ignited within Jake, but it felt tentative. Could they truly rally together? What's at stake felt so much greater than just the festival. This was about community, resilience, and a future that needed to be bright. "I need volunteers to help set up barriers, keep the space clear, and ensure that everyone is safe." Mrs. Thompson's plea resonated across the crowd like a rallying cry. People began to step forward, one by one. Jake's heart swelled as he joined the masses. He saw Mia near the food stalls, her eyes wide with excitement despite the chaos. He waved to her, a smile breaking through his worries. This was about more than the festival, it was about uniting everyone, showing them that they could stand together against any storm. As Jake dove into the crowd, adrenaline coursing through his veins, he collaborated with others, setting up makeshift barriers and organizing performers. Everyone was pitching in, from the elderly lady selling pastries to the local musicians tuning their instruments. The air was electric with purpose, minutes turned into hours. The sunset painted the sky in vibrant reds and oranges, a dramatic backdrop to the hustle and bustle. Slowly but surely, the festival's atmosphere shifted back to one of celebration. Jake could feel a palpable energy, a determination that pushed against the shadows that had threatened to engulf them all. Then, with one hand still gripping a long ribbon meant to outline the festival area, he paused as he watched Mia twirl in delight, a handful of bright flower petals showering the ground around her. Her laughter rang out, pure and unfiltered, weaving its way into Jake's heart. It was a reminder, this festival was for every moment, every smile, every person gathered here. But then a loud voice broke through. From the corner of his eye, Jake saw someone marching toward the stage, a face he didn't recognize but who appeared ready to disrupt the fragile peace that had been restored. The crowd parted slightly, as if sensing an impending storm. As the stranger approached Mrs. Thompson, the atmosphere thickened with tension. What could they want? Would this person shatter the glimmering hope Jake had finally wrapped around his heart? Jake felt his pulse quicken once more as he braced for the next wave of uncertainty. What could this mean for the rest of the night? The stranger reached Mrs. Thompson, his expression fierce and determined. Jake strained to hear their words over the murmur of the crowd, anxiety prickling at the back of his neck. He noticed a few festival-goers exchanging worried glances, the tension spreading like wildfire. Mrs. Thompson, the man declared loudly, this festival was set to be the highlight of our community until now. But if you proceed without addressing these safety concerns, you're endangering everyone here. Jake could see Mrs. Thompson's jaw tighten, but she held her ground. We're making adjustments. We'll ensure everyone's safety. The community is resilient. We won't give up. The man, however, seemed unconvinced. And who's responsible if something goes wrong? His voice was sharp, and the crowd could feel the weight of his accusation. We can't just ignore regulations because we want to have fun. You could lose everything. With each word, fear gripped Jake's chest tighter. He exchanged looks with Mia, who stood nearby, her cheerful demeanor dashed. Are we really willing to risk lives for a night of celebration? The stranger pressed on. We need to shut it down, before it's too late. Jake saw the uncertainty wash over the crowd, like a dark shadow creeping in on what they had fought to build together. He took a deep breath, feeling his heart gallop in his chest. He had to do something. Wait! Jake called out, stepping closer. He could feel the eyes of the crowd shift toward him, a mix of curiosity and dread. We're all here for a reason. This festival isn't just about entertainment, it's about us. It's what brings us together as a community. We're capable of making this work. Some in the crowd nodded, while others looked skeptical. Jake could see Mrs. Thompson's grateful smile, which gave him the courage to push forward. What if we form a safety committee right now? We can put up extra barriers and assign volunteers to monitor everything. If we all work together, we can make it happen safely. The stranger hesitated for a moment, seeming to consider his words. But behind him, whispers surged through the crowd. Someone shouted, "That's right. We won't let fear take this away from us." The atmosphere shifted subtly, a spark of defiance igniting hearts that had briefly faltered. Jake turned to Mia, and her hopeful smile began to chase away the uncertainty. The spirit was alive, crackling with potential. As murmurs of agreement spread, the man sighed deeply, his tough exterior softening. I appreciate your passion. But we need to do this properly. If we're on board, then let us work together to ensure safety. Just don't take risks lightly. Jake nodded fervently, a wave of relief washing over him. They had found common ground under the looming threat, a blending of hope and responsibility. Great! So, who's with us to make this festival happen safely? He called out, extending an invitation to action. With a renewed spirit, the crowd surged forward, hands raised in solidarity, voices booming with excitement. The energy shifted, veering away from doubt and into a determined hope. Jake felt a swell of pride. They were doing this together, but just as he was about to embrace the moment, the drums began to roll a deep, resonating beat that echoed through the air, slicing through the anxiety. The performers were ready to take the stage, but did they all realize the tiny firestorm of doubt that still smoldered nearby? As the lights flickered on, illuminating the gathering, Jake couldn't help but feel the weight of the real battle they faced. This festival may bring joy, but how long could they keep the darkness at bay? With every face illuminated before him, Jake took a deep breath, aware that tonight held more than just music and laughter. It would bring challenges he could not foresee. Would they truly be able to keep their fragile peace intact, or was another storm brewing just around the corner? Jake felt the rhythm of the drums pulse through him. Each beat resonated like a heartbeat, igniting a fierce determination within the crowd. They were ready. Yet, an unsettling knot twisted in his stomach. Just as joy threatened to break free, shadows lurked, whispering fears of what lay ahead. The performers took their places. Colorful banners fluttered in the night air, and the unmistakable scent of fried dough mixed with popcorn wafted through the festival grounds. Laughter and chatter erupted as families gathered, bonding over shared excitement. But Jake could see it, the uncertainty etched across faces, the undercurrent of worry that hadn't dissipated. "Let's get ready, folks," Mrs. Thompson called out, her voice cutting through the noise. "We'll make this festival a night to remember, I promise." Jake caught Mia's eye. She was clapping her hands over her head, trying to rally excitement, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. He stepped closer, worried that the weight of leadership might be too much for her. "You okay?" he asked softly. She began, glancing at the growing crowd and the twinkle of fairy lights. "What if it's not enough? What if something happens?" Jake wanted to reassure her. "We've got this. We have each other." But his voice faltered, a crack of doubt breaking the facade. "Ladies and gentlemen." A voice rang out from the stage, a woman dressed in a bright, flowing costume that sparkled under the lights. "Welcome to our annual festival. Tonight, you'll witness magic, music, and everything that makes our community special." The crowd clapped and cheered, and for a moment, the shared joy blanketed the doubts, holding them at bay like a shield. Yet Jake couldn't help but glance over at the stranger, still lurking at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed. His expression was inscrutable, but the tension was palpable. "First up, we have our local dance troupe." The announcer's voice boomed again, and with that, the stage lit up. Dancers twirled onto the scene, their movements graceful and fluid. The crowd erupted with applause and delight, an explosion of energy that sent ripples through the night. Jake turned to Mia, feeling the thrill in the air. It was contagious. But as the dancers smiled and leaped, he couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere beneath it all, something wasn't right. Suddenly, a loud crashing sound broke through the festivities, a construction barrier toppling over, nearly toppling one of the performers to the ground. Gasps filled the air, and in an instant, laughter faded. People scrambled back, eyes wide in shock. Jake's heart dropped. "No," he whispered, and in that moment, everything shifted again. "Safety committee," he yelled, thrusting his hand up. "Help!" Panic surged through the crowd, and he could feel the energy split, a chasm of fear opening wide. Some rushed to assist, while others backed away, unwilling to risk getting involved further. Jake's mind raced. They had just barely built unity, but now it felt teetering on the brink. "Stay calm," he shouted, struggling to regain control. We need to secure the area. The stranger stepped forward, his tough demeanor shifting to urgency. We need to gather everyone away from the stage. It's not safe. Jake met the stranger's eyes, a flicker of understanding passing between them. They were on the same side now, drawn together by the chaos erupting around them. As volunteers rallied, working to correct the toppled barrier, Jake saw Mia run to assist too. Relief washed over him, mingled with fear. If this could happen now, on what was meant to be a night of joy, what else lurked in the shadows? He didn't know if the festival could withstand this crisis, or how to restore hope once again. All he knew was that time was slipping away, and the storm was far from over. Could they band together and prove that their shared spirit could overcome even the darkest uncertainty? The crowd was in disarray, a mix of surprised shouts and anxious whispers. Jake's heart raced as he scanned the scene before him. Families were moving away from the stage, but others hesitated, eyes darting between the toppled barrier and the dancers still trying to regain their composure. "Jake!" shouted Mia, her voice rising above the commotion. She was helping guide families toward safety, her earlier unease replaced by a fierce focus. He admired her bravery, but his stomach tightened, the icy grip of dread setting in. "Everyone needs to stay calm," he shouted, but his voice felt swallowed by the chaos. He stepped back into the throng, urging people away. Somehow, he felt the weight of their fear settle on his shoulders. The stranger stood by, coordinating with a couple of festival volunteers. "This way," he directed calmly, gesturing to an exit path. Watching him work, Jake felt a strange mixture of gratitude and confusion. It was as if this unknown man had become an ally overnight, born from urgency rather than trust. "Hey!" Jake called out, drawing the stranger's attention. "What's your name?" "Eli," he replied quickly, his eyes never leaving the crowd. "We should reinforce the area and check for any injuries." "I can help with that." "Okay, let's do it." Jake nodded, feeling a surge of resolve. They made a quick plan. As they organized volunteers, the dancers started to shake off the fear that gripped them. They smiled, rallying with their supporters, lit up by applause. It was like a spark of hope flickering amid the storm, but then the tension shifted again. A mother, holding her young daughter tightly, approached Jake with wide eyes. "Is it safe?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Should we go home?" Jake felt her fear, almost a tangible weight. He glanced toward Mia, who was now helping others, and Eli, who was checking on the performers. "We'll be all right," he said, kneeling to the little girl's height while trying to maintain a steady tone. "We're going to fix this together, okay? This is our festival. No one's leaving until we make sure everyone is safe." As he stood up, something in him shifted. The words he spoke felt powerful, a reminder of community. The crowd was watching him now, their anxious expressions shifting into something else, something like trust. "Let us get back into the spirit of this festival," Jake shouted, raising his voice to drown out the lingering fear. "We're all part of this evening, and we won't let a little trouble ruin our fun." Cheers erupted, and as hesitant smiles spread, Jake felt the drumbeats of the festival pulsing through the crowd once again. If they could just focus on the joy that had brought them all together, maybe they could overcome this moment of chaos, but then, he felt a chill creep down his spine. The stranger Eli was suddenly staring toward the entrance of the festival grounds. Jake followed his gaze, heart pounding in alarm. An ominous figure stood at the edge, watching. Jake's breath quickened, the earlier warmth of the evening now chilling. "Eli," Jake said, his voice low. "Do you see that person?" Eli nodded, tension etching his features. "Yeah, I do. Let us keep an eye on them." Jake's stomach knotted again, but he forced the worry aside. They had to focus. They had to finish what they started, despite the shadows looming just beyond the festival lights. But what did the stranger want? And why did Jake feel like the answer was about to unfold in a twist of fate he wasn't ready for? The figure at the edge of the festival grounds stood still, like a statue carved from the night. Jake squinted, trying to see through the blend of low light and the flickering lanterns. It was hard to shake the sense of foreboding that washed over him. Every instinct screamed that this person was not there to celebrate. "Eli, we need to do something," Jake urged, his voice barely above a whisper. Eli's gaze remained fixed on the stranger, calculating. "Let us not panic. We'll keep a close watch. If anything goes wrong, we act together." Jake swallowed hard, nodding in agreement, but anxiety prickled under his skin. In that moment, the exhilaration of the festival began to feel like a facade, one gust of wind away from being ripped away to reveal the underlying tension lurking beneath. "Everyone, can you hear me?" Jake raised his voice again, trying to keep the energy alive within the crowd. "Let us keep moving towards the food stands. Enjoy the games. We've got this." The crowd hesitated, but a few cheers broke through the uncertainty. It was a small victory, a reminder of why they were all there in the first place. Yet Jake felt more unsettled. He could feel Eli's keen awareness beside him, a silent confirmation that the lurking threat hadn't gone unnoticed. After a moment, the stranger stepped forward, the boundaries between the festival lights and the darkness fading into the background. Jake's heart raced. What did this person want? Was it just his imagination, or did the figure seem to be searching for someone? "Mia!" Jake called out, spotting her further down. She was still guiding families, her eyes scanning the crowd for any signs of distress. He gestured her over. "What's up?" she asked, jogging to them, breath visible in the cooler evening air. "That person," Jake said, nodding toward the figure with a sharp jab of his chin. "Eli and I have been keeping an eye on them. Can you see anything unusual?" Mia squinted. "No, but I'll keep an eye out. The last thing we need is another panic." Her expression hardened as she leaned in. "The energy's shifting, Jake. People can feel it. No one should leave, right?" Jake said, a bad feeling gnawing at him. "We're all here for the same reason." "Right," Mia confirmed. "But let us be smart about it. Keep the front visible." Just then, a loud crash echoed against the festival fairground. Something had fallen near the stage again. Jake's heart sank. Instinctively, he turned to Eli. "Stay close. We can't let the crowd get overwhelmed again." "The dancers will be fine," Eli said, a hint of assurance coloring his tone. "They're professionals. But those at the back, they might not be aware yet." The crowd was starting to shift again as the unsettling sound faded. Jake felt a surge of determination rise within him. "We'll keep them safe," he promised, all too aware of the weight lying just outside their bubble of light. The ominous figure was still there, watching, and Jake was certain that the air had thickened around them. Something was about to break. Mia grasped Jake's shoulder, squeezing lightly. "Now's our chance to unite them again. We'll need everyone's energy." Together, Jake, Mia, and Eli took a deep breath and faced the crowd. "Let us gather around." Jake's voice boomed again, rising above the uncertain murmurs. "We are not afraid. This is our night." But as cheers echoed back, a loud shout pierced through the festival's music, an unexpected call that shattered the fragile sense of security. "Jake! You need to see this." His heart lurched as he turned back to the entrance, fear creeping in as he wondered what awaited him there. What new challenge would they have to face together? Jake's heart pounded as he pushed through the crowd. His friends' voices faded behind him, replaced by the thumping of his pulse in his ears. Shadows flickered under the bright festival lights, creating an electric tension in the air. "What is it?" he shouted, finally reaching the edge of the fairgrounds where the festival's mood started to shift. Amber, a local artist and part-time assistant at the event, stood panting, her wide eyes darting back toward the direction of the stage. It's near the main tent. You have to see. Without waiting for more, Jake shifted his focus and rushed after her, weaving through clusters of people still enjoying their night. He caught moments of laughter and games, reminders of the joy that had been there just moments before, but now it felt fragile, like a bubble waiting to burst. Jake reached Amber, who stood gazing at the main tent, her expression a mix of curiosity and fear. What did you see? There's something under the tent. Something odd, she stammered, her voice low, carrying a weight of worry. You remember the old stories? The tales about what's hidden under that fabric? Jake felt a chill crawl up his spine. The old stories, everyone in town knew them. Superstitions passed down like family heirlooms. He fought back the urge to dismiss them. He had to focus on the now, on keeping everyone safe. Let us go check it out, he said, determination burning in his chest. He turned to find Mia and Eli behind him, their expressions matching his concern. What is going on? Mia asked, her tone serious. Under the main tent. Something strange. We need to find out what it is, Jake replied, signaling for them to follow. The three of them moved closer to the main area, where festive lights created a mocking sense of brightness against the tension brewing. As they approached, the laughter and chatter of the crowd became muffled. The rhythm of the festival felt off, like an unnoticed discord in a once perfect harmony. When they reached the tent, they paused, the fabric billowing slightly in the evening breeze. It looked so innocent against the chaos of excitement surrounding it, but Jake couldn't shake the feeling of dread. Guys, on the count of 3, we pull it back, Eli whispered, his eyes steady. 1, 2, 3. Jake counted, and together they ripped the fabric away. The sight that greeted them was perplexing and surreal. Beneath the tent was a collection of strange artifacts, remnants of what appeared to be old, discarded events, a rusted sword, broken pottery, and a dusty vial. Curiously, at the center was a framed piece of paper, yellowed with age, like it held secrets just waiting to be dug up. Jake picked it up cautiously, feeling the weight of its history. What is this? He murmured, scanning the words. Something from the past, I think, Mia said, stepping closer. Looks like it has names on it. What names? Eli pressed, leaning in too, his brow furrowed. Names of the ones who vanished, Jake gasped, his throat tightening. It all started coming together like pieces of a puzzle he didn't even know he was solving. Just then, a blast of wind swept through, causing the tent to flap violently. The crowd erupted into startled screams, and Jake turned to see the figure from before emerging from the shadows, eyes fixed on him. What do you want? Jake shouted, stepping back instinctively, tight with fear. But the figure didn't respond. Instead, they pointed directly at the paper Jake held, a steady, unwavering gesture that sent chills coursing through him. In that moment, everything shifted. The festival lights dimmed, and all eyes turned towards them. Curiosity mixed with fear in the air. Jake! Mia's voice was urgent. What do we do now? With uncertainty gripping his heart, Jake faced the crowd. His voice rang out, but now it was fueled by a different kind of energy. We need to unravel this together. The knowing in the crowd deepened as they waited for the next moment to unfold, shadows flickering across their faces, hinting at the dangerous secrets entwined in their own pasts. What led to the names on the paper? And would they find the truth before everything was lost? The air crackled with tension as the crowd drew closer, their murmurings swirling like the wind that had just gusted through. Jake's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through him. He was right there at the edge of something big, something that tied them all together in ways he couldn't yet fully understand. Jake! Mia's voice urged him back to reality, her eyes wide with fear. What if we shouldn't have no? He cut her off, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. If this is connected to those who vanished, we can't just walk away. We've got to dig deeper. Amber looked from Jake to the figure, then back at the ominous artifacts. What if they're tied to the festival's history? What if this is a warning? Jake glanced at the fragile paper in his hands, its aged surface seemingly pulsating with energy. That's exactly why we need to find out. He took a step closer to the figure, who still stood silent, eyes locked on him like a lighthouse beam cutting through fog, guiding him toward hidden truths. Eli edged forward too, his brow creased with determination. We can't let fear control us. The festival is important to everyone. If something's wrong, we have to face it. The crowd seemed to breathe in unison, a collective intake of air that felt heavy with expectations. Jake gestured toward the artifacts spread out before them. Does anyone recognize these? They have to mean something. Whispers erupted, voices rising and falling in a wave of speculation. Someone mentioned the old legends from their childhood stories they fervently dismissed as mere folklore. A hush fell suddenly, as one voice broke through the chatter, a local elder named Mrs. Reynolds who stepped forward. Those who vanished. They were connected to an old pact, she spoke softly, her voice shaken as the weight of memories washed over her. Every 20 years, this festival serves as a reminder, and a reckoning. Jake's pulse quickened. A reckoning? What do you mean? The names on that paper, she continued, pointing. They belong to those who broke the pact. They vanished without a trace. Their spirits linger, unseen, watching. What pact? Mia pressed, desperation tugging at her words. Mrs. Reynolds glanced around at the captivated crowd, her voice barely above a whisper. It was an exchange. Our ancestors traded their safety for something greater. Every year, they must honor that gift. If they fail, she trailed off, fear glinting in her eyes. A shiver ran through Jake, and he glanced back at the figure still standing in the shadows. Are we in danger? The figure stepped into the light, a hood falling back to reveal a familiar face. It was Ethan, a long-lost friend who had mysteriously disappeared years ago, his expression unreadable. What are you doing here? Jake's heart clenched, a mix of relief and confusion flooding through him. Where have you been? I'm here to warn you, Ethan said, voice steady yet urgent. There's a deeper truth to the names. And if you don't act soon, there's a chance the same fate could befall you. Jake felt the air grow thick with dread and determination. How could he have been so naive? The shadows they had dismissed were real threats, pulsating with stories of the past. They had each felt the tension build, but now it felt like something had snapped. Nobody's disappearing on my watch, he declared, rallying the group around him. We've got to face this head-on. We can't let fear win. The crowd cheered, a wave of solidarity surging through them. But uncertainty nipped at their heels too. Ethan took a step forward, his eyes now defiant. If we're going to uncover the truth, we need to follow the others, the ones still lost. Others? Mia questioned, tremors of fear lacing her voice. Yes. There's more to this, he replied with an edge of desperation. And only together will we uncover what really happened. Only together can we change the outcome. Jake's heart raced as the crowd buzzed with a blend of hope and fear. They were on the precipice of something larger than themselves, a chance to rewrite history. And as they stood there, their breaths mingling in the charged night air, they knew that the Real journey was just beginning. Are you ready? He called out, looking from face to face, searching for conviction. The crowd nodded, a chorus of collective resolve rippling through them. But what awaited them in the dark depths of their town's hidden past? And was it too late to alter their fate? The air was electric with anticipation, shadows dancing under the festival lights as Jake stood at the edge of an unraveling mystery. Together, he and Mia, Eli, and the gathered townsfolk faced a reality they couldn't ignore anymore. The names on that yellowed paper tied them to a past they had tried to forget but now had to confront. Jake felt a wave of determination crash over him, fueled by the urgency of the moment. Ethan's presence ignited something deep inside Jake, a reminder that they were not just dreamers anymore, they were warriors of their own story. "We're in this together," he said, his voice steady, resonating through the crowd. "But if we're going to find the truth, we need bravery and unity. This festival isn't just a celebration, it's our chance to remember and reclaim what was lost." A collective murmur rippled through the townsfolk, a flicker of courage illuminating their faces. It was true, past fears could no longer hold them captive. They had fought through so much already. And maybe, just maybe, they could uncover the deeper truths that could finally set their spirits free. "Let us start at the beginning," Jake continued, becoming the beacon of hope in the growing tensions. "We need to follow the history that's interwoven into our lives. Who's with us?" The crowd erupted with cheers as people began stepping forward, one by one, voices rising with passion, uniting like a well-tuned orchestra. Jake turned to Mia, pride swelling in his chest. She nodded, her determination mirroring his own. Side by side, they faced the crowd, uncertainty washed away by shared purpose. The fabric of their community, once fraying under shadows, now wove tighter with every moment of solidarity. "Where do we begin?" Eli asked, glancing around at the gathered artifacts. The eyes of those who had once doubted began to spark with interest, curiosity uniting beneath a veil of uncertainty. "The main tent," Amber suggested. "It's where everything began. That's where the first festival was held." Jake could feel the weight of their collective history calling. "Let us go," he urged, leading the charge as the townsfolk rallied beside him. They moved as one, their voices harmonizing with resolve. Laughter mingled with the tension that had gripped them just moments before. With newfound strength, Jake reached into the depths of the festively adorned tent, unearthing more remnants of what was hidden, connecting to their roots. Each artifact, each name they arrived at revealed pieces of the puzzle, stories interlocking like threads in a weaving. As they worked, Ethan shared tales of those who had vanished and the old sacrifices that once eased their fears 20 years ago. Their ancestors promised to keep traditions alive. The stories ignited a spark of unity among the crowd. Legends from the past morphed into hope for the future. As the final name was spoken, the last to be appeased, shimmering lights erupted over the festival, cascading down like stars. Cheers erupted, a mixture of jubilation and relief. But amidst the joy, Jake felt an unsettling twist within him. Had they uncovered everything, or was something still lurking beneath the surface? "I sense something wonderful has shifted," Mrs. Reynolds said as she stepped forward, her eyes glimmering. "But we must also acknowledge what we're honoring, those whose memories continue to guide our future." Jake nodded, feeling the magnitude of that truth pulse through him. "This festival isn't just about us, but a legacy we must protect." He glanced around at faces, lit up with realization. "We have a second chance. And we must keep each other's spirits alive together." And at that moment, under the incandescent glow of the festival lights, old fears began to dissolve. The charm of their lives nestled within memories, laughter, and hope blossomed among the crowd. As families hugged and shared joyous tears, the festival morphed into a tapestry woven with connection. Jake felt a wave wash over him, an emotional current that lifted him higher than he'd ever imagined. This was their story, one stripped of darkness, full of light. "Remember," Jake called, the real spirit of their community igniting within him. "This isn't the end. It's only the beginning. Together we can face whatever comes our way." The crowd roared, echoing strength and unity. And as Jake looked around, he couldn't help but smile, his heart lighter than ever. They had transformed their fears into the foundation for something extraordinary. They would embrace the future, hand in hand. Together. Now, before you close this chapter on Jake and his Festival of Triumph, there is something you need to do. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, you know it loves it. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, your voice matters, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. True fans understand the importance of building this community together.